So, Mr. Brainworm is, if you haven't heard, wants to take fluoride out of our drinking water and also wants to make vaccines more of an optional thing, so that measles and polio and smallpox and stuff like that can come back and sweep the nation. A guy who's an attorney who's about to be the head of Health and Human Services because that doesn't make any sense. But in Trump world, it doesn't matter. We live in a post-fact era. The internet has been a great blessing for humanity, but also a huge curse. And we can correct many of these issues that we have. But one of the biggest problems with the internet is that it's completely decentralized. There aren't any gatekeepers, which is a good thing in some ways, but it's a bad thing in a sense that our individualist culture and I would say Americans' broader distrust in institutions is making it so that celebrities have more influence than they should over things they shouldn't have influence over, like Joe Rogan having so much influence politically, even though he's not really a political commentator. He doesn't even claim to be. He talks about politics sometimes, but he talks about all types of stuff for the most part on his podcast. So you have people who aren't experts in any of these subjects who are greatly influencing what Americans think. We're in a post-fact era, so everything is a conspiracy. But taking fluoride out of our drinking water is a very bad idea. So let's get into a little bit of why. When they took fluoride out of the water, like RFK Jr. wants to do everywhere, people's teeth started rotting out of their heads. Yeah. Well, again, it's in there for a reason. This is regulated for a reason, right? Okay. Our next potential leader of U.S. health policy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., wants to ban adding fluoride to public drinking water, a practice that experts agree has remarkably elevated teeth health for millions of Americans at little cost. In a country where many people don't have access to dental care, a widespread crackdown on this naturally occurring mineral could be a disaster. To see how, we turn to the sobering case of Genoa, a city in Alaska that voted to stop fluoridating, its water in 2007, citing many of the same fears that RFK touts today. In a 2018 study published in the journal BMC Oral Health, researchers examined the dental records of adolescents in the Alaska community who sought Medicaid dental care in the years surrounding either side of the ban. They divided them into two treatment groups: a 2003 group, when public drinking water had optimal levels of fluoride, and a 2012 group, well after the fluoride ban. The results were damning. On average, the 2012 group had a significantly higher number of cavity related procedures for adolescents than the 2003 group. Similarly, the odds of someone 18 years old or younger undergoing the same type of procedure was 25% higher in 2012. Children born after the fluoride ban were the hardest hit age group, receiving not only the most tooth decay treatments, but also having the most expensive treatments on average. Additionally, on the economic side of things, the researchers found that the dental care costs for adolescents soared by 73% as a result of the fluoride policy, even after adjusting for inflation. In some, it seems clear cut that removing fluoride caused tooth rot to surge, and with it, medical costs. And again, you got to keep in mind how expensive medical care is in general and how our health insurance system will often deny people not as much as it used to because of the Affordable Care Act. And speaking of the Affordable Care Act, Republicans want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. So this is just a recipe for disaster right here. Today, nearly three-quarters of the U.S. population has access to fluoridated water, reducing tooth decay in children and adults by an estimated 25%. That's one fourth. That's a massive number. Again, we just went over how much healthcare costs soared because people's teeth started rotting out of their faces. But this is what again, this man has no business being the head of Health and Human Services. He knows that too. He knows that he has no business doing this, but we'll see what happens. All right. U.S. Centers for Disease Control has hailed fluoridation rather, as one of the top 10 greatest public health interventions in history. So why does RFK, who was nominated by President-elect Donald Trump to be head of the Department of Health and Human Services, want to ban it? Well, according to him and other critics, fluoride is dangerous industrial waste that's associated with everything from IQ loss to cancer. While fluoride does have its complications, RFK's criticism haven't been proven. or are overblown. And most of fluoridation's drawbacks come from doses that are extremely high compared to the amount added to public water. Again, the idea that, we're just dumping buckets and buckets of fluoride into the drinking water and not paying any attention whatsoever to the effects. No, 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 that's not how this goes. But again, because we live in the age of the internet, because we live in a post fact society, people get to choose what they want to believe. Okay. According to the Scientific American, at 3 times the recommended level in water, fluoride can cause a condition called dental fluorosis, which damages typically cosmetically the developing teeth of young children. It can also cause more serious and painful skeletal fluorosis, but that's exceedingly rare. And not only is it exceedingly rare, but again, you have to have 3 times the levels that are recommended. And that doesn't just willy nilly happen. People follow these regulations, and there's a general interest in keeping Americans more healthy because it makes the country more healthy, which makes the country more strong and more productive and more capable of moving towards the future. As far as the effects on a child's mental acuity goes, the evidence is highly disputed. A 2024 review conducted by the U.S. National Toxicology Program linked high levels of fluoride to lower IQs in children, but the study also focused on the effects of fluoride at twice the recommended level in the U.S. and couldn't draw as strong a link at reasonable fluoride concentrations. It also failed to pass scientific review twice and bypassed independent review on its most recent version, per Scientific American. In short, there's not nearly enough evidence yet to justify a nationwide ban on fluoridation, and plenty of evidence to show it'd be a bad idea. Again, no surprise here. And at the end of the day, RFK Jr. has absolutely no business being the head of Health and Human Services. Hey now, thank you so much for tuning in here at Politics and Paper. If you like what I do and you support my work, go ahead and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it and it really helps to support what we do here.